Whether it's being stuffed in a fridge or having secret babies that your superhero boyfriend doesn't know about, comics have had a history riddled with controversy.
What the hell is even that?
And in this video, we're going to be going over some of the most controversial comics to ever grace the page. These may be in or out of canon, most likely out, so keep that in mind. And, honestly, there's going to be some subject matter on here not appropriate for children. So be warned. With that being said, let's hop into this video. In 2004, an arc started in Amazing Spider-Man titled Sins Past. This started with issue number 509 and lasted for 6 issues in total. It began with Spider-Man fighting a pair of twins at Gwen Stacy's grave. And afterwards, Peter reads a letter that Gwen had written to him before she died, back on that bridge, when Peter tried saving her from falling. And after a little light grave robbing, he discovered that the twins were actually Gwen's. This is an incredibly shocking revelation, considering, as far as we knew, Gwen was mostly with Peter. And obviously, he didn't know about these children, so we wouldn't think that they would have been his. Things get even crazier when it turns out that Mary Jane somehow knew about this all along, because she was around when Gwen and Norman Osborn were talking about the situation happening in the past. Obviously, this was revealed in the 2000s, and not before Gwen Stacy and her father, George Stacy, died in the comics. So this is a behind-the-scenes plot that they retroactively decided to put in there. According to the story, sometime around the death of Captain George Stacy, Gwen and Norman Osborn began to connect with each other, and eventually had an affair with each other.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Which, let's just point out the elephant in the room. This man is hooking up with one of his son's friends. That's gross. He then brainwashes the twins into thinking that Spider-Man was their real father. They grow incredibly quickly due to the Goblin's power. And they're on a mission to avenge their mother's death and take out Spider-Man. This is deeply controversial considering the fact that a teenager at this point, basically, or young adult, I don't know. The sliding timeline of Spider-Man is just a little complicated. Had children with a grown-ass man, and because of the Goblin's altered DNA, they were able to be birthed incredibly quickly and develop into full-grown adults, insanely fast. But the fact that she would keep this from Peter the entire time is just disturbing. Needless to say, this did not go over well with fans. Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, and someone who at one point was contracted to write the Nicolas Cage Superman movie, wrote a few Batman comic books. That's not the controversial part. The part that people have problems with is they made Batman wet his pants. Why? And he still tries to defend it to this day, but I really don't see how you can. It's just one of those things that didn't have to be in there. And don't get me wrong, comic books are littered with those. Remember DC Black Label? And how they actually had to recall an issue of Batman and completely changed the digital version because of Batman exposing himself?
You did not have to do that. You knew you did not have to do that. How could you have done that? Can you live with yourself?
There's kind of a history of Batman comic books going a little too far. And this is just one of those things that didn't have to be in there. And Kevin Smith still gets crap for it to this day. In 1988, we have Jason Todd as Robin, after Dick Grayson moves on from being the Caped Crusader's sidekick and becomes his own man, calling himself Nightwing. Fans weren't really receptive to the change at the time, feeling that Jason was far too brash and brutal than Grayson ever was. He was a lot more angry and didn't really show Batman the respect he deserved, disobeying his orders and fighting with him on multiple occasions. This all culminated with Jason being fired from the role as Robin. Afterwards, with his newfound downtime, he decided to go to the Middle East and try to track down his mother, who left him as a young child. Once he is finally able to track her down, she ends up selling him out to the Joker, who ties both of them up and savagely beats Jason with a crowbar. It is brutal, and honestly, it's even darker in the animated films. Afterwards, the Joker blows up the facility that they were being housed in, and in her dying moments, Jason's mom realizes that with the last of his strength, he was trying to save her, trying to get her out and set her free. But it was all too late, because she had already betrayed him. Now the interesting thing about this is once Batman finds his body, they actually had a poll, where readers back in the day were able to call in and say if they wanted Jason to live or die. It was a very, very narrow decision, with, obviously, them killing him off. But it was recently confirmed that a second draft of the following comic was actually made. And it showed what would have happened if Jason Todd lived, and they would have moved on with Batman as if that entire arc hadn't have happened. But at the end of the day, killing off Jason was probably one of the best things that could have been done for the character. Because it took an unpopular superhero, and after some downtime, brought him back as the Red Hood, and he's now a fan favorite.
This one might almost be as messed up as our last entry, and honestly, I don't know what the hell was going on with DC at the time, but they took the character Kyle Rayner, the Green Lantern, gave him a girlfriend, just killed her off. Brutally. I mean, they have her get dismembered off screen and stuffed into a fridge. I mean, this one's more of just a body horror thing than anything actually disturbing. And looking back on it now, it just feels more edgy than anything, trying to introduce a character just to kill them off screen, almost as if they were just a plot device all along. Which is kind of sad if you think about it. I mean, if they wanted an actual impact, they could have had a named character, somebody who was actually, relevant to DC history. But instead, they just introduced somebody just to kill them off. No real impact. I mean, sounds kind of lazy if you ask me. I mean, realistically, it would have had a lot more impact if it was a major character. But they just can't go ahead and kill off one of their most popular characters, so this is what we got.
Many people loved Marvel's Ultimate Universe for giving us fresh takes on characters like the Ultimate Spider-Man, which acted as a fresh entry point for new readers. Or the Ultimate Universe Nick Fury, who ended up giving us Samuel L. Jackson in the role. Even Miles Morales eventually came from this new universe. However, one of the worst things that Marvel has ever done also came from this new split in their publishing. We all know the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver from the MCU, and their really close relationship. But the relationship they had in the Ultimate Universe was a little closer. In this universe, they're children of Magneto, and he had abused Pietro. While he had no positive father figure and no mother that he knew of, he turned to the only source of comfort in his life, his sister, Wanda. At first, there were just some illusions of some weird shenanigans going on between the two superpowered twins, but eventually, this is straight up confirmed. And this was one of the most controversial decisions that had been made in the Marvel Universe at the time. And honestly, to this day. I just have to say, how is Captain America in the wrong for not being able to comprehend this?
Marcus Immortus, son of a version of Kang the Conqueror, was trapped in limbo, unable to return to Earth, and his plan to escape his eternal purgatory? Kidnap Carol Danvers. Yeah, Miss Marvel. Before she got the promotion to captain. Controlled her mind to make her think that she loved him, and forced himself onto her, impregnating her in the process. Ugh. But the craziest part is that when she returns to Earth, she finds out she's pregnant, she gestates rapidly, and gives birth. The baby then ages incredibly fast into the full-grown adult version of the guy that knocked her up in the first place. Good God, what is wrong with Marvel? And just so you know, this comic book came out 43 years ago. Marvel has been doing dark stuff for quite a while.
While some people wanted to see what would happen with the story, most people immediately rejected the idea of a paragon of American values created during one of the most dark times in world history, coming out of nowhere, switching sides, and joining the very evil that he had been fighting for nearly 80 years. Now, obviously, this wasn't exactly the Captain America that we had all grown to love, and there were absolutely factors contributing towards the sudden heel turn. But still, that didn't sit well with comic book fans at all. To many, Captain America was still Marvel's embodiment of American patriotism, optimism, and fighting spirit of the American dream. But now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he literally turned into one of the big bad guys from World War II. Which, by the way, if you haven't guessed, is kind of a huge deal. Captain America meant a lot to many different people from all walks of life. And I do know that there was outrage on the fact that Captain America's creators were Jewish, and the very first comic book of Captain America shows him punching a certain mustachioed German before America even joined the fight in 1941.
It was their way of showing support for America joining the liberation of the peoples captured by Germany and protesting the treatment of so many people across the world during this time. And now all of a sudden, the very character created to be the living embodiment of that fight and those core ideals had become the very thing he had sworn to destroy. And for that reason alone, I completely understand why so many people were upset with this. And it was in pretty poor taste to all of those who helped get Captain America to be such an important cultural icon that he is today. There are many more controversial comics out there over the years. I mean, like basically all of Marvel Max, and absolutely more. And if that's something you'd like to see me cover more, go ahead and let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe, as it really does help the channel. If you'd like to see more from me, go ahead and click here to learn all about how Stan Lee reimagined classic DC characters like Batman and Superman. Or click here to learn about the time that DC and Marvel bridged the gap between each other to work together in comics. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.